Everybody, Sean Yesner here, owner, founder of Yesner Law, host of the Crushing Debt podcast, with a very short video for you today. So, got a question on the Crushing Debt podcast. Got a question from one of my listeners, rather. And so the question is the listener and her husband have joint credit card debt. Now, the wife filed bankruptcy by herself, which is allowed. A husband and wife do not have to file together. And the filing was about 8 years ago. Now, sometime after the filing, sometime recently, the husband got a collection notice from that joint credit card debt. And what the wife wants to know is if the statute of limitations prevents the creditor from collecting on that debt. Now, a couple issues there that I want to unravel. Like I said, husband and wife do not have to file together. However, any joint debt is not eliminated for the non-filing spouse. So in this case, wife files, wife and husband have a joint debt. Husband's joint debt is not eliminated. Husband's obligation to pay the debt is not eliminated because he didn't file bankruptcy. But the question is, because the filing was 8 years ago, does the statute of limitations kick in and prevent the husband from having to pay this debt? Now, the simple answer is no. There is no pause to the statute of limitations. But there's a couple of other issues there. First of all, what is a statute of limitations? Well, statute of limitations is a time period in Florida. It's under Chapter 95 of the Florida Statutes. And it's a time period within which a person or creditor or company or whoever, someone who has the ability to sue, has to sue within that time frame. For example, it's a 5-year statute of limitations on a written contract. It's a 1-year statute of limitations to collect on a deficiency following a mortgage foreclosure. So somebody who got foreclosed, the bank only has 1 year from the date of the foreclosure to sue them for the debt. So the statute of limitations, again, is just a time period under which the plaintiff has to sue. If the plaintiff waits too long to sue, the statute of limitations is a defense to the lawsuit. Now, what this listener was asking is the statute of limitations tolled? Well, tolled means pause. So in other words, does the bankruptcy pause the statute of limitations? So if the statute of limitations, if we're 3 years into a 5-year statute of limitations and a bankruptcy is filed, when the bankruptcy is over, does the statute of limitations still have the remaining 2 years? And the answer under bankruptcy law is no. And we look to Section 108 of the Bankruptcy Code for that answer. Now, what Section 108 says is that if the statute of limitations has not expired on the day the bankruptcy is filed, but expires before the bankruptcy is over. So statute of limitations has not expired at the time the bankruptcy is filed, but during the course of the case, call it a 5-year Chapter 13, the statute of limitations does expire during that time period. Well, in that case, then the statute of limitations expires 30 days after the bankruptcy is over. Now, if the bankruptcy would not interfere with the statute of limitations, so let's say a 5-year statute of limitations and you file the bankruptcy in year 2, but it's a Chapter 7, so it's over in about 6 months, the statute of limitations just continues. The clock continues to run. So if the statute of limitations does not expire before the bankruptcy ends, then the clock continues to run. If the statute of limitations expires while the bankruptcy is pending, then you have 30 days after the bankruptcy is over in order to file the lawsuit. Statute of limitations gets a 30-day extension in that event. Now, the question with what the listener asked is, we don't know when the statute of limitations expired in her example. Even though her bankruptcy was 8 years ago, if this credit card debt is a revolving debt, the statute of limitations to sue on that credit card debt might not have started yet. So we don't know when the statute of limitations started. But again, assuming the statute of limitations had not expired at the time the wife's bankruptcy was filed and had not expired at the time the wife's bankruptcy was over, then it would just continue on as if there was no bankruptcy. If, however, the statute of limitations expired while the wife's bankruptcy was pending, then as soon as the bankruptcy was over, there would be this 30-day stay, 30-day extension to the statute of limitations. Now, the other interesting issue, in a Chapter 13, there's something called a co-debtor stay. So what that means in the Chapter 13 is that if a husband and wife file together, if the husband and wife file separately, so the wife files, the husband doesn't file, any lawsuits of joint debt, any lawsuits that could be filed against husband and wife, there is a stay to the husband. So the husband does get the benefit of the stay. So under the co-debtor stay, if the wife files separately, there is still a stay against the collection of that debt against the husband until the bankruptcy is over. And then we got to look again at the statute of limitations issues. There is no co-debtor stay in a Chapter 7. So in a Chapter 7, if the wife were to file, the statute of limitations would just continue on as against the husband. So there's a couple facts that we're missing to really answer the wife's question. If the statute of limitations had started at the time the wife filed, then the husband, if it's a Chapter 7, then we've got to look at what the statute of limitations is and has it expired as to the husband. If this was a Chapter 13 and we've got the co-debtor stay and the statute of limitations expires during the bankruptcy, then we have to look at, does the husband get that 30-day extension? So a couple of factors here that we're missing to really answer the question, but the important thing to remember here is if you have questions about joint debt, if you have questions about Chapter 7, Chapter 13, about the co-debtor stay, about statute of limitations, about tolling the statute of limitations, reach out to us. Let me know. You can contact me on wherever you're watching and listening to this video. If it's on Facebook, send me a message on Facebook. If it's on YouTube, make a comment on YouTube. If it's on Instagram, wherever you're listening to this video and you have questions about statutes of limitations and tolling and bankruptcy in Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 and credit card debt and all that kind of stuff, reach out to me. Let me know. We'll set up a time. I provide a free analysis, so we'll take a look at what your situation is. We'll take a look at your specific facts, and then we'll tailor a potential solution that is specific to you. So that's all for this video. Again, I want to promote my new book, Become Debt Free in Less Than 1 Hour. I guess since the book was launched in September, I still get to call it a new book through the end of the year. If you're watching this now, it's almost the end of 2020. I guess I get to call it a new book through the end of the year, but you can find that book at seanmyesner.com/become debt free. A ton of ideas in that book to increase your income and decrease your expenses to generate more revenue so that you have more money at the end of the month rather than more month at the end of the money. That'll do it for this video. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. If you have questions, please reach out, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.